And now onto our dinosaur of the day. We're getting back to ankylosaurs, Liaoningosaurus, which was a request from Nick's Ico via our Patreon and Discord, so thank you. Like I said, it was an ankylosaur. It lived in the Early Cretaceous in what is now Liaoning Province in China, found in the Yixian and Jiufotang Formations. It looked, I would say, like a tiny ankylosaurus, but without the club on the tail, at least a little bit. It walked on 4 legs, it had a long tail, had a small head. It's the oldest known ankylosaurid to have a tail club.
Oh, that's a good juxtaposition to Spicomelus, because this one's from the early Cretaceous, whereas you had the middle Jurassic one that already had that handle in the tail.
Yeah, well, I should say, so this one had a tail club handle, but it didn't seem to have a tail club knob.
Okay, so it was the oldest well, you said ankylosaurid to have a tail club.
Yes.
So if you don't include Spicomelus as an ankylosaurid, then it's still true. But if you don't, then we got to push it back dozens of millions of years.
True. Liaoningosaurus also had short hands, and its feet were longer than the hands, and it had a mix of nodosaur and ankylosaur features. It was named in 2001 by Xing Shu, Xiao-Lin Wang, and Hailu You. The type and only species is Liaoningosaurus paradoxus. So the genus name means Liaoning lizard, and then the species name paradoxus refers to the, quote, surprising characteristics of this animal.
Yeah, paradoxus we've seen before.
Yes. The type specimen's a nearly complete articulated skeleton. It's a little over 1 foot or 34 centimeters long, and it's a juvenile, so it could have gotten bigger.
I hope so.
Actually, it did get bigger. A nearly complete skeleton was later described that was larger, and it filled in some gaps, like it had 5 digits on each hand. The upper arm bone or humerus was almost as long as the femur or tibia, and those are leg bones. More specimens have been found and referred to Liaoningosaurus since.
Such a little cutie.
At least the type specimen, yeah. And the type specimen had very few spikes or armor on its back, possibly because it was a juvenile, so it wasn't fully grown.
This is just a little baby. It's only a couple feet long.
Yes. It was thought to have 2 large bone plates covering its belly, but there's some debate on this.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's been described as having a shell-like bony plate covering the underside of its torso.
Like a plastron on a turtle.
Almost, yeah. Now, one paper said that there's a few hundred specimens of Liaoningosaurus.
What?
But only 2 specimens have been officially described.
I want to go to that museum and see hundreds.
Now, the second specimen was described in 2016, and that description led to the hypothesis that Liaoningosaurus may have been semi-aquatic for a few reasons. So G and others in 2016 suggested that the underbelly armor helped protect it from underwater attacks, and said that the lack of fusion between the spine and hip bones helped it in the water, although others argued that that lack of fusion was a feature of being a juvenile. So there's some debate there. In 2014, Victoria Arbor and others suggested that that structure was just skin impressions in the type specimen, though. The underbelly armor. That was based on the type specimen that was known, the juvenile. A 2018 study suggested that the structure may have been formed by a shield around the hips and then had a scale cover. The 2016 paper, which described that second bigger specimen, also suggested Liaoningosaurus may have been semi-aquatic because the second specimen was found in an aquatic setting.
Ooh, that's pretty circumstantial.
Yes. Now, just because a fossil was found in an aquatic setting, that doesn't necessarily mean the animal was also aquatic.
I feel like most of the ankylosaurs that I really like are from
Boreal
aquatic
apelta
settings. Yeah. There's a lot of them.
The 2016 paper also suggested that Liaoningosaurus was a carnivore, based on the long fork-like denticles of the crowns of its cheek teeth, also the sharp claws on its hands and feet, and the fact that parts of fish skeletons were found preserved in the rib cage, as well as a lizard tail. The lizard tail may have been evidence of scavenging.
Wow, that would be weird if this was a aquatic ankylosaur.
And carnivorous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if maybe just baby ankylosaurs were little carnivorous swimming around, eating up fish, and then as they grew up, got onto the land.
Got too heavy and spiky.
Yeah.
Now, ankylosaur teeth tend to be triangular or leaf-shaped with a lot of denticles or points, and the teeth of Liaoningosaurus were similar, but the gaps between the denticles go almost to the base of the tooth, so the tooth looks like a comb, and that may make it more carnivorous. Not everybody agrees with this hypothesis, though. It's also really hard to prove gut contents.
Yeah, because it could just be that a fish fossilized where it looks like its stomach was.
Yes, which I will get into. But also, there seems to be no other evidence of gut contents in other specimens, although, again, they have not been formally described. So there's several possibilities as to how the fish ended up in the ribcage. They might have been swept into the body, like they're at the bottom of the lake, and then underwater turbulence moved them to the ribcage, although the authors argued this wasn't likely because the fish weren't found outside the body.
Yeah. So you're not saying like into the skeleton, basically, like the skeleton, it's dead, it's eroded away. Now it's just skeleton left, and then like a fish skeleton gets shoved into it, basically.
Yeah. Another possibility is that the fish may have died in the ribcage while scavenging the dinosaur, or they sheltered inside the dinosaur and died there.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the authors argued this wasn't likely because there were no openings in the body or signs of scavenging.
Anybody who's had an aquarium, though, knows that fish will get themselves stuck in all sorts of crazy places. So the idea of a fish getting stuck in the rib cage of a little tiny ankylosaur is not completely unbelievable. It's actually really interesting to think about.
Yeah. But they're saying here there's no signs of scavenging, like no broken ribs. But some people pointed out there's no soft tissue impressions either, so that makes it really hard to know for sure if there's openings. And other arguments against this include the way the fish were scattered seems to show that the fish were scavenging. The third possibility the authors put out was that the fish were eaten by the dinosaur. And they thought this was most likely because its partial fish remains there, and they're partial possibly from digestive acids. And fish skeletons were found on both sides of the body, not tightly packed in the stomach area, which could mean that they got expelled from gas after the dinosaur died.
That's quite the visual, and also sounds a little bit like special pleading.
Maybe, but then there's also the lizard, although I couldn't find much information on this lizard tail in the ribcage.
Yeah, that definitely seems less likely to just be there by chance, right? It's just a tail. We know that lizards sometimes drop tails when they're being predated, and lizards probably don't live in the water. So why would you have fish and lizards together? I guess there are some lizards that live in the water, though.
So if anyone knows more about this lizard tail, I'd like to know because I had trouble tracking down information.
Sounds like these aren't super well published on if there's hundreds of them and only 2 have been described formally.
Maybe someone will study them in the future.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It would be, because that could tell us a lot. Liaoningosaurus lived in a freshwater environment with lakes in a place with wet and dry seasons. Some other dinosaurs that lived around the same time and place include, birds, as well as hadrosauroids like bolong, the Ceratopsian Psittacosaurus, the Neornithischian Jiufotang, sauropods including Dongbei titan, dromaeosaurs like Sinornithosaurus and Microraptor, troodontids like May and Cynovenador, the Therizinosaur, Beipiaosaurus, oviraptorosaurs like Caudipteryx, ornithomimosaurs like Xing, the compsognathid Sinosauropteryx, and tyrannosaurs like Dilong, Eutyrannus, and Sinotyrannus. It's a happening place.
It is, and it's got cute little baby ankylosaurs maybe swimming around, but we don't know.
It is I like that image. And other animals that lived around the same time and place include insects, amphibians, pterosaurs, and mammals.